Hey, so it's Mother's Day this weekend, and I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I had found myself in a funk and didn't really know. Might have been a year before, um, and it was because Mother's Day was coming, and I don't know about the experience of other women, but for me, Mother's Day after my mom passed away is a weird day. It's a weird day for me because growing up, that was the reason Mother's Day was important. My mother, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have had a reason to consider it as a day other than a Sunday if it wasn't for Lexus. Um, and she was one where it was whatever she said. If she wanted a present, if she wanted to go out, if she wanted to be left the fuck alone, whatever that Sunday wanted to look like for her, she defined it. You know what I mean? So that's how it was all about the mother. Yes, yes, the mother. Now, once I had kids, that baton was something she and I wrestled with a little bit in my beginning years of mothering because it was like, look, I'm a mom too now. You know what I'm saying? Not so much when my kids was small babies, but when they started to get older, little ones, when they want to make dinner for mom or whatever the shit is they want to do for mom. And, we navigated it eventually peaceably, but at first it was a little bit of tug of war. Um, Towards as my kids got older, and towards the end, she was much more willing to, we were both much more aware of the need, and we're glad that we had been able to begin to practice sharing of the holiday or whatever it meant. You know what I mean? Um, she's been gone a while now. This year would make the ninth one, without her. And the first couple were pretty, it was rough because my kids were older and would still want to do things for me where I didn't necessarily feel in the celebratory mood. And I think it's all coming up for me right now because my daughters are mothers now, young mothers. My oldest daughter has a 3-year old. My youngest girl has a 1-year old, and I get to see how they are with their kids, and it's amazing because on the one hand, I see them giving their kids things that I didn't give them, materially, emotionally. And it's beautiful to see that they have it to give in spite of what I haven't poured, right? So I thank the universe, God, people, community, all the things that contributed to their ability to mother, right? And maybe it's it's knowing sometimes the things that, like the ways that I wasn't able to show up, that keeps me from feeling like, yeah, uh, don't celebrate me to that day. But I get it because goodness knows, my mother, when I consider the whole of my life in our interactions and relationships, and we wasn't always besties. Unfortunately, for a long time of my life, I didn't think my mother liked me at all. I just didn't. You know what I mean? Oh, of course, she might have loved me, but she ain't. Nothing that I saw seemed like she liked me very much. Um, and I don't understanding her at the end, and even myself now, my own experience. I'm sure had she known that, it may have hurt her. But also, my mom was the kind of person where how you felt about her ex, like how you interpreted her, she's totally left that up to you. You know what I mean? She was like, this is what I said. This is who I am. And if 2 plus 2 ain't 4 for you, then you figure it the fuck out. Cause that's I don't know what you want from me. That was my mom. Um, but it's funny that was the mom growing up. She was a different person. Time the grandkids came and we was all grown. She had a lot more give. But I could see now where, because she was actively mothering the four of us and going through a divorce and other things in her own Lexus life, she may not have had it to give to me and relate to me and work towards us getting a shared language of things when I was young. Um, she didn't have it then, you know what I mean? And that's funny because as a kid, I didn't have a language either. But I'm so grateful that we were able to get to a space where I believe my mother and I weren't just mother and daughter. I think we had a friendship. I think we had an understanding of each other that, or I'll say even an acceptance. I think we had an acceptance of one another that we enjoyed, and I appreciate that. And considering the loss of it, there's no fixing that. You know what I mean? It's just something that I've learned to live with. But Mother's Day is coming up, and I'm likely going to do something with my daughters. But I want to read a poem that I wrote about my mom, um, to eulogize her at her going home service. I don't really share it. I think I've only maybe shared it once or twice. She passed in 2015. But I it would be interesting. Like, I think me and my mom would still be friends. She would take great umbrage. She would find she would have to, yeah, we would fight about me smoking weed now, because she just she would not understand that, much less, she wouldn't get that. But she wouldn't, I mean, we would just agree. I don't smoke around her. You know what I'm saying? My relationship with that wouldn't be such that it would impact my relationship with her as much as any more than she would want it to. You feel me? But anyway, I want to read a poem. I want to share a poem that I wrote about my mom. And I read this at her funeral. And my mom knew I wrote. She in fact enjoyed anything I wrote and would share it. So it's not a situation where, oh, I wish my mom read my poems. I just wish that the ones she read about her were ones that spoke about how I truly felt. Like, because mostly she read things that I wrote when I was hurt. You know what I mean? Very grievous about my upbringing experience. But she was gracious, She's just like, oh my God, Marquita. um, but it's good. It's good. It's good. In any event, I just want to share this. Mother wounds, we come here unknowingly with them. And I pray we can all heal of them, because that's what it is. Once I learned to understand my mom was a mere mortal that did her godly best to be better than a mere mortal, it made relating to her, understanding her, connecting with her so much easier. And it was so much even more freeing, because if that's what she is and that's what I am, and it ain't no big shoes to fill or none of that, it's just doing my godly best to be better than a mere mortal. But in any event, I just want to read this poem real quick. Not real quick, but finally get to it. Lightning flashed on November 25th in the year 1945 as heaven applauded the birth of God's latest creation, a baby girl. the world would be very different now. The world had received a feisty bundle. This young life was reared earnestly under the word of God. Preaching and evangelizing parents would ensure Alexis would inherit the ability to see beauty and good in all of God's created creatures. If she didn't see it, she would speak it until it was so. The world, unready for such a force, used every trick in its soul-snaring box to botch God's plan and destroy his purpose for her life. But God, being infinitely wise, infallible, and immutable, sowed words in her heart with the same characteristics to prevent Lex from becoming another sad statistic. And as she grew in him, she learned every pain was divinely permitted, even the ones that were self-inflicted, and the seed sown in her heart yearned to be closer to its source. It drew her to the God from whence it sprang. He watered that seed with lamb's blood, washing away the pain of disobedience, past failures, and trials. Transformation was immediate, and it wasn't just something she professed, because we could all see it. And God poured himself in her until his spirit runneth over to her family and friends. He widened her circle and opened her heart to let in many sons and daughters, not just those from her womb, but many who could fill a room. Knew Lex was the one to call if you needed to get a prayer through. Somehow, the word of God on her lips seemed more believable. And if she told you God promised it, you knew your goal was achievable. You knew the mystery of the world would be revealed and your pain would be healed. Your purpose in God would be fulfilled if you just dared to trust and believe. And believe she did, from beginning through the thick until the blessed end. She called on him, and God, hearing her pleas of why, seeing the damage inside, kissed the tears from her eyes and communed with her. The same hosts present at her birth made another journey to the earthly realm, reached into that corrupted shell to free that which had been steadily transformed into Christ's image. And spirit recaptured spirit. And when she crossed over, we wished we could hear it as God told her, "Well done," pulling her into his bosom because she'd won death. It had no sting. Our pain is only temporary, while her joy was now everlasting. And we rejoice and remember and honor and celebrate Alexis Jean Davis. It's my mother. And in her way, I know she mothers me still. And me and my mom could kiki. And it's funny enough, towards the end, she probably would have welcomed me crying with her, but by that point, I was conditioned not to. And I can remember her like, "Marquita," like maybe encouraging me towards vulnerability on some things, and I was, no. But I miss her, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have had her in my life, and it wasn't always Kiki's, but we take a whole experience as a whole experience. You know what I mean? And we take from it what we can tolerate long enough to learn from, learn to see beauty in, learn to reflect. And I'm grateful. That's my mother, Big Lex. And yeah. So if you listened this far and it applies, happy Mother's Day.